From Washington, D.C., RFA Insider starts right now.
That was Amy, and I'm Eugene, and on today's episode of RFA Insider, we're going offbeat twice.
First up, we go offbeat with RFA's Korean service about North Korean troops fighting in Russia's war with Ukraine.
And then we'll go double offbeat, talking to RFA's investigative team who broke the news revealing the identity of an alleged Chinese spy who had ties to British royalty.
Double offbeat?
Hey, so like if you're offbeat and then you go double offbeat, they cancel each other out.
Do two wrongs, make it right.
On beat again, right?
I don't think that's how it works, but we'll find out soon. Offbeat is next.
lãng xong mình lôi bạn
Mỹ lệ Thai
tập trung vào chủ đề.
딴소리하지 마.
offbeat.
Okay, so we're going to kick off this segment with some very disturbing news coming out of Ukraine. President Vladimir Zelensky this week said that Russian forces are burning the faces of dead North Korean soldiers to conceal evidence that North Korea is involved in the war with Ukraine.
So this is following further reports of hundreds among North Koreans involved in the conflict. But here to talk with us today about the subject is Jaewoo Park from RFA Korean. So welcome to the podcast, Jae.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, so first, can you set the scene for us? How did we get from Russia's initial invasion of Ukraine to where we are now, which is hearing reports of Russian forces burning soldiers' faces to hide the fact that they're from North Korea?
Yeah, so North Korea and Russia has been engaging a lot in military-wise in Kursk area, which was used to Russian territory, but Ukraine got occupied in August.
All right, so the news that we got specifically, the very gruesome news of the Russians there burning the faces off of North Korean soldiers in order to hide their participation in the war. Right? Why would they do such a thing like that?
So first of all, I feel very sorry for a North Korean soldier has been killed. And also, I got some information yesterday, and also the Ukrainian government official mentioned that a Russian soldier taking care of North Korea soldiers' dead body are very, very organized. Then they taking care of their own soldier. So which means they want to hide North Korean soldier identity. So that's why that's why they are burning North Korean soldiers' face. But the Ukraine President Zelensky mentioned it, and also there's a video out of it. So it seems like it's possible, but we cannot confirm the video is we didn't see at the position. And I don't know what their tactic is, because they keep denying North Korea and Russia. And after that, President Putin kind of acknowledged that it is happening, but it is within the international law. So they changed tactic, like they're hiding, but they kind of acknowledging. Especially they there's information that they give the North Korean soldier to the fake IDs who there's in Russian part Far East there's a Asian ethnicity.
Right.
So they fake their identity as the Far East Asian. So they keep hiding, but at the same time, I don't think they can hide from international community. And also, we are open society, not like Russia and North Korea. So we watching the video and we watching the pictures, and sometimes they talk in Korean but in the video, so we know they're North Korean.
So like you mentioned, both Russia and North Korea have kind of avoided directly confirming the presence of North Korean troops in Russia. So what do Russia and North Korea have to lose by acknowledging the presence?
I think they're hiding like to their own people, right? But at the same time, I think even in North Korea, people know there are North Korean soldiers being in Russia. But the thing is, how many casualties and how crucial is, they don't know. That part they don't know.
If the media is controlled by the government and they're not announcing anything officially, then how can news get to people in North Korea that
basically we RFA broadcast also to North Korean people?
Of course.
And also one example. So you guys know all about South Korean martial law, right?
Yes, of course.
So one of our North Korean defector, I talked with her, and she even write the article that North Korean people know about the South Korean martial law if people listen. And so what I understand, North Korean people probably know North Korean soldier went to Russia to fight against Ukraine, but they don't know the casualty. But I think North Korean government want to send more North Korean troops. Yeah. So that's why they don't want to mention and they don't want to show the casualty, how many casualty.
To, I guess, zoom in on what you mentioned with the Kursk region of Russia, are most of the North Korean troops deployed there, or are they all around the conflict areas?
Most of them are in Kursk area. As I mentioned, they're mentioning they're within the international law, they're doing the self-defense. And at the same time, some I heard that North Korea technician and higher officer are deployed in Donetsk and different site because they already sold to Russia to missile and artillery. So they need to check the technique for how it works because Russia and North Korea artillery and weaponry is similar, but it's not the same. So they need to check how it works and they need to train to the soldier how it works. But most of them in Kursk, but some of the officer and other people in the Donetsk in the east side of the Ukraine.
All right, so today I was working on a story that you wrote actually where it concluded the interview with the Ukrainian soldier. His name is Mikhailo Makaruk.
Yeah, Makaruk.
He's with the Ukrainian Army's 8th Separate Special Operations Regiment. And he told you that his unit deployed drones that attacked the North Korean soldiers.
Yes.
So let's take a quick listen to some of the things he said in the interview.
But the style of the war is typical Soviet of the 1915s, 1916s. The line, typical infantry line, it's a perfect target for our artillery shells and for the drones. All equipment is Russian. All weapon is Russian on them.
So again, if all of the soldiers are wearing Russian uniforms and they have Russian equipment, how do we know that they aren't Russians? Because after all, part of Russia is within East Asia. Yeah.
I think Ukraine government has an intel, and also U.S. government has intel, so they know their North Korean people from. They went to Far East to Russian territory, and then they got trained, and they go through train, and they went to the Kursk area right now, and they have an intel and. Also, some video Ukraine government posts. Sometimes there's a audio bite. They're talking in Korean with a strong North Korean accent. So there's sometimes they said, "Oh, stop," or "I don't know," so something like that. So it was quite amazing, but we cannot confirm because I think only Ukraine government officially said this is North Korea, but it seems like North Korea, but U.S. government didn't say anything. And South Korea government right now don't say anything right now. So
I see.
And also, I just want to let you know how I got the story. It's very interesting.
It's amazing actually.
So we have a sister organization called RFE and RL.
Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty.
Radio Free Europe. And so after North Korea got deployed to Kursk area, there are colleague from RFE contact us to asking about a former North Korea soldier defector. They want to interview him or her. So they contact us and I contact with them. So I give it the contact information, and also I ask them if there is there any soldier gonna be deployed the Kursk area. So he gave me the contacts, and I contact with the soldier I did interview and. Like last month, but he said, "Oh, I'm kind of busy and I need to do something, but I will contact you later." So I was waiting, but he didn't give me an answer. So yesterday or day before yesterday, a U.S. government and Ukraine government mentioned that there's a casualty. So I contact with him through Messenger, and he gave me the message and he gave me the link of the video they post, and it was quite amazing, and it was. I feel really sorry because, as I mentioned, it sounds like human shield and meat grinder because North Korean soldier in the video, and what he told me is that they don't know how to fight in the current war because they're just running around and they fight with the drones and stuff.
Yeah, so I was working on the English version of that story, and one thing that he said that I found really striking was that they were using tactics from the 1950s era Soviet Union.
Yes.
So that is to say that the North Korean military is woefully unequipped for modern warfare, from what it seems like.
And also, not only the equipment, they just they don't know how to fight against drones.
Right, right.
And they just gonna die, and they just give up their life, and that's what the North Korea army for, and North Korea government just sending them. That's what it is for. So Kim Jong-un and Putin is using their asset as a North Korea troops.
So currently, the U.S. and South Korea estimate that more than 10,000 North Korean soldiers have been sent to Russia. So that's not a small number. And given what you said about them being kind of like human shields or like meat grinder, that's a lot of affected families in North Korea. So how tightly do you expect North Korea will control information about casualties, numbers like that?
They cannot. I don't think they cannot control all the information, even though they're, I think, most restricted country ever. Even I talked with a recent Syrian diplomat, and he said it's worse than Syria and worse than any other country. But they in the border of the North Korea and China, there's a lot of trade going on, so they got information from outside of the world, especially from China. So I think they're gonna get more information, and within the North Korea, mouth to mouth, there's gonna be information spreading out. We broadcast also yesterday. There are a lot of casualty going on, 200 and few hundred, and also there are a lot of people got in the hospital, and we got the video from the Ukraine side. There's the Kursk area hospital. There's like 100 North Korean soldiers got injured. So I think North Korean soldiers' family, mom or dad or their children, they will get angry. Like if they listen their family has gone, or after they found out. But North Korea has been always the same. The people get control, but they cannot resist, I think. But so that's why North Korean government try to like control more information. How many people die and how many people lost.
I see. So to wrap up, in an address by President Vladimir Zelensky, he says,
"Unfortunately, we are forced to defend against the North Koreans as well, even though there is not a single reason for them to die in this war."
What do you think he means by this?
I agree with him, but at the same time, he's the chief of the Ukraine military, so I think it's a psychological warfare as well. So I remember Ukraine government also posted a video that there's a prison for POW is ready.
I saw that. They released like Korean language signs that were like, we'll give you meat, vegetables, like 3 meals a day if you surrender.
Yeah, because they don't eat like 3 days a meal in Korea. If North Korean troops got very vulnerable after they see all the psychological warfare, and they're going to run away, and they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up psychological warfare. I mean, because just basically what I've gathered from what he was saying is like, we're not actually your enemy. And if you think about it, these soldiers, they're so far away from their home. Yes. Most of them probably don't want to be there. And when the enemy is saying, we don't want to fight against you, it's your government that's making you do this, that can be very effective. So yes, that's a very good point.
I think that we will see the POW issue soon. So right now there's a lot of casualty, but they must be captured North Korean soldiers soon. So I think they're going to see North Korean soldiers in front of the Ukraine soldiers.
All right. Is there any final word that you'd like to have on the matter?
So Ukraine war has been really for North Korea has a lot of casualty. So I think there's going to be more casualty and also POW part. And I hope North Korea people will find the freedom, and but it's also very hard because they have own family in their own country, so they cannot run away because North Korea is a very crucial government. They give you punishment if your family members run away from the government or military.
Yes, that's definitely a lot to reflect on as we consider they're in a very difficult situation. But I'd like to thank you for coming in today to talk with us. Stay tuned for more RFA Insider.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to the RFA Insider podcast, made by two real-life staffers at Radio Free Asia.
If you'd like to send us feedback, there are many ways you can do this.
You can send us an email at insider@rfa.org.
You can comment on our webpage at rfa.org/English/insider. Just click on the episode you're listening to and write your comment below.
Or you can send us a tweet at RFA Insider or visit us in person.
No, don't visit us in person.
Right, don't visit us in person. But anyway, we really want to hear from you.
So tune in every other Friday and we'll take you behind the scenes.
And tell you what the news really means here at RFA Insider. Wow, what a situation we have in Ukraine, huh?
Yeah, I think, like you said, quite gruesome and, sobering to hear about.
Yeah, but I think we can agree with what the president said, the president of Ukraine, where he's saying that North Koreans do not need to die in this war. And, it's kind of sad that these people who, they struggle to survive in their own country and then now they're sent almost to the other side of the world and put in peril. And that's,
or being sold out,
Yeah, kind of. But let's move on to somewhat lighter things. It's now time to check in with this segment, which we call Podcast Free Asia.
And as a reminder, Podcast Free Asia is where we put things we wouldn't put in Offbeat or The Rundown.
Do we still have The Rundown? We haven't done it in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a moment.
It's been like really good because a lot of other teams in RFA have been approaching us saying, hey, we want to be on the next episode. And so we've had to start sticking interview segments, jam-packing them together. And that's not a bad thing. So maybe that will continue and then we'll have less rundown, but it will return eventually.
Yes.
We promise. I also wanted to explain that Podcast Free Asia is called that because RFA is, of course, Radio Free Asia. And when we were coming up with a name, Amy suggested switching radio for podcasts as a joke, and then she unilaterally dubbed the intro segment in the pilot episode as
Yes.
Podcast Free Asia. And so it stuck. And so now on Podcast Free Asia, or PFA, we usually respond to listener or viewer comments, and today that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
So our only comment that we're responding to today comes all the way back from episode 10, where we discussed Thich Minh Tue, the Vietnamese not monk who went viral on Vietnam's social media for his barefoot pilgrimage across the country. And then the government, of course, wanted to silence him and, broke up his pilgrimage. And
Oh, that was quite a few months ago.
yeah, it was quite a while ago. And
We had Chung Sun, who at the time was in the Taipei office and was telling us about, I guess, his rise to fame on Vietnamese social media.
right. And now Trung Son is now the Vietnamese service director, and he has joined us here in DC. So I just want to say, you want to move up, you want to get promoted. An appearance on RFA Insider is exactly what you need.
I don't think we can take credit for his promotion, but yes, we are very thankful for his appearance on our show.
Yeah, and it certainly didn't hurt. Let's just say that.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, we cannot take credit for it. You're right.
Okay, but what is the comment?
Okay, the comments. Right. So this comes from Mike Hawk 4450, who writes, "My father-in-law is angry with me for almost 2 months now because I won't accept that this guy as being God. I'm like, WTF, bro? He is a normal guy."
Yeah, I think that's the essence of Thich Minh Tue, or why he's so popular.
Right. So Thich Minh Tue, as we said in that episode, he's just achieved such a following in Vietnam because I guess the Vietnamese government controls religion to an extent there. So he's quote unquote an unofficial monk because he hasn't registered with the state's official version of the Buddhist religion, and he's only following Buddhism based on what he believes it actually means, right? And a lot of that doesn't align with what the state wants. But he's defiantly, doing these pilgrimages where he walks across the country barefoot. he had done 4 up to that point, and then he got popular on the 4th one because I guess people were filming him on social media, or filming him and then putting the videos out on social media. And then he'd walk into each town, and there'd be like droves of people coming to meet him,
like a Buddhist Forrest Gump.
Yeah, and they're also like, he's doing it right. Like we should follow him because he's not, basically saying what the state wants, and so that's why he became extremely popular. And I guess in this case, I wouldn't go as far to say that he's God or that he's Buddha, right? I mean, he's walking along his path to enlightenment, as the way I understand Buddhism works. I'm not entirely sure because I'm not a Buddhist, but I can see what this guy is saying is like, why do I have to worship this guy? He's just a guy, right? And I guess you don't have to, but maybe the father-in-law is being a little bit too pushy, perhaps,
Yeah.
But still, what he's doing does commend some amount of respect, and maybe that's basically what his father-in-law is trying to instill in him. I don't know. I wasn't in the conversation, but
Sure.
I can understand when people are trying to push things on you about beliefs that can sometimes lead to heated situations.
Yeah, maybe the father-in-law's point is that Thich Minh Tue is like a breath of fresh air, or like reinvigorating for his beliefs compared to maybe state-sponsored monks or religious leaders.
So, I wanted to update our listeners on the situation because, during the time that we were reporting on him a lot, that we had that episode 10, which was in the summer, I believe, the government had broken up his pilgrimage and sent him home, and he went missing for a while. So now he's made the decision that he's going to do another barefoot pilgrimage, but he's walking all the way to India.
Oh.
From Vietnam.
Wow.
Right? And so he's already crossed into Laos, actually. And
Okay.
so currently he's in Laos, and we're going to track his location at RFA. So the visuals team, or the multimedia team, is creating a map. As we verify how far he's gotten, they'll, update it and show that what route he traveled, how long it took him to get there, what the expected date for arrival in India is. He's planning to go through Laos and I think also Myanmar.
Wow.
And I'm not sure if maybe another country too. I'm not entirely sure of the exact route, but we'll have to log into the website and check that, and we'll try to link that in this episode.
Yeah, very cool. I would love to know like total steps taken.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Calories burned,
Well, he needs
elevation
to get
climbed.
a Fitbit. No, it's interesting. Like when we were talking about it in one of the meetings, we said if we wanted to know his exact location, what we should do is give him like one of those Apple AirTags,
Oh,
and it
true.
would just like geolocate him where he actually is in real time. But then they're like, where's he going to put it? He doesn't have pockets, right?
Yeah.
He'd have to like hold it on his person
He's a humble
somewhere.
guy. He doesn't have AirTags.
Right. But then again, he does walk around. Like one of the things that he's famous for was he'd walk around with his little alms bowl, right, where you're supposed to collect, I guess, coins. Is that how that works?
I think food.
Food. Okay. Well, then I guess you shouldn't do that. So,
No.
because I was thinking you could put the AirTag in there, but if you're collecting food, then you don't want to eat the AirTag.
Right.
Okay. But that's enough for podcast Free Asia for now.
Okay.
And we'll be right back with Double Offbeat.
蓝上乜女話呢
Mỹ lời Thai
tập trung vào chủ đề.
딴소리 하지 마
Double.
Offbeat
All right, so today we're going double offbeat, and we have a repeat guest with us today, which is Bor Deng from RFA Investigative. So welcome, Bor.
Thanks for
Welcome
having
back.
me again.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thanks for having me again.
I think you might be the most repeated guest, actually. Your third appearance.
I don't know about that. I think I've only been on once before.
Yeah, you were here for the Asian American episode. I think you might have stepped in during another episode to ask us to do voiceovers for you for something else.
That
So
may
might
have
be
been it. I don't think that made the final cut. did it?
No, it did not.
For the RFA Investigative podcast about Wang Shijun.
Yes.
But today you're here to talk about a different alleged spy in the UK.
That's right. So this has been a huge story over the course of the last week. Basically, back in November 2021, so it was a couple years ago, there was a Chinese businessman who a document came out this week from a special immigration tribunal in the UK that codenamed him H6. And he was stopped and had his phone seized because there were some very suspicious things that the UK authorities were looking into. And on that phone, they uncovered some messages. So one of the things they uncovered was that he was very, very close to Prince Andrew, the Duke of York. He's a minor member of the royal family, younger brother to King Charles. And some people might know him from being in the news for some pretty unfortunate reasons because he had been close to the late Jeffrey Epstein, who was a convicted pedophile. So he's already kind of a pretty notorious guy. And it turns out Prince Andrew was quite close to this fellow H6, who had become a sort of advisor to him. And he was so close to Prince Andrew that he was authorized to do business deals on behalf of him. He was a big representative for one of his big business initiatives in China. And on that same phone, it was also discovered that H6 had communications with the Chinese embassy in which he was given what looked like talking points for business that he was doing with and on behalf of Prince Andrew. Now, obviously, this set off a lot of alarm for UK authorities and intelligence services because this man was, not a registered agent. He'd gotten really close to this prince. Who knows what else he was able to do? And the reason why this has become a story this week is because an immigration court order banning him from the UK. He was subsequently, barred from entry. Came into light. So what was very exciting is RFA, my team, actually was able to break the name of this alleged spy. His name is Yang Tengbo, and he's a Chinese businessman who has been in the UK for quite a long time and had stunning access to, members of the top echelons of British society. We also uncovered that he had been photographed at least once with the former Prime Minister Theresa May and twice with the former Prime Minister David Cameron, whom he actually said in an interview to Chinese state television that he met at a 10 Downing Street party while David Cameron was in office. So it's a pretty big news story, pretty big scoop that we're very, very pleased to have been able to get and had some sort of subsequent follow-ups too.
Cool. I just wanted to say that 10 Downing Street is the residence of Britain's Prime Minister, for those who don't follow British politics and might not know that. But anyway, let's get on with some questions then.
So I wanted to talk about RFA Investigative's role in this story, which was breaking the name Yang Tengbo. So the report said that RFA Investigative used information from the court ruling to identify him. So what information did you get from the ruling, and how did that lead you to Yang Tengbo?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it was also it's quite fun. I don't know if I should say that. But it was quite stunning because the ruling had so many, it all but named him. It had so many details about this guy that you almost couldn't have not found him. It had his date of birth. It had the years that he was in the UK. It didn't name the companies that he had founded. He's founded quite a few, but it disclosed, the years that one of his main companies was founded and the fact that it had gone through a name change in a different year. It talked about the honorary membership in a specific club that he had been given a membership to. So it was very detailed, and you kind of wonder. They sort of want everyone to know, right? So it was really amazing because myself and my team, basically, we saw the news story in the morning. I sort of messaged a few folks on the team. I said, I bet we can figure out who this guy is. And we just got to work. We looked at corporate records. So in Britain, there's a public registry of records called Companies House where you can look up, the key figures, the years of register, similar to what you can do in the States. So we looked through Companies House records. We looked through Chinese social media. We looked through reports in foreign media in Chinese. And so by about 10 o'clock in the morning, we had a name, and then it was just a matter of confirming the name, getting everything we knew about him. And once we had a name, we could go into, we have a lot of Chinese-speaking folks on staff who are very, very well equipped with searching social media, searching Chinese text. And we could find, oh, look, he gave this interview in 2019 and he talked about this. Oh, look, here are some pictures of him at an award, and this is the award. And this award is actually tied to the United Front. And, we can show that because these awards awardees are United Front people, and we can go on the United Front, the government website and find their names. So it was just, I cannot, I get so excited about this because I just can't say enough how amazing of an amazing amount of teamwork that came together with it. Because, literally one of us would not have been able to do the other thing without the others. And then, we're just racing to write this story. And then we realize that one of the reasons why his name hasn't been published yet is because there is an anonymity order, on the tribunal ruling, and that's basically prevented his name from being reported in the UK. So, yeah.
So I was going to ask about that because I overheard my desk is right next to the investigative team. So I was like, they were talking about like there's an embargo or something like that, and I was like, well, what's that about? And so please continue.
So basically the UK has they don't have a First Amendment like we do in the States, and it has some restrictions on reporting that we wouldn't face here. And in this particular case, what we're pretty sure is what happened. This is what I've been told by folks I speak to in the UK, but I am not a United Kingdom barred barrister, so please don't quote me on this. But basically, Yang Tengbo had been challenging something in the immigration court, and because of that, the normal process is that he gets to remain anonymous until that challenge goes to the high court or goes through the high court. It's interesting though because like I say, it was so obvious who he was, and it was a bit of an open secret, in the UK who he was. Nobody was just allowed to report on it. But at the same time, a lot of details about him that you wouldn't have known if you didn't know the name and didn't speak Chinese, couldn't have come out. But it was quite interesting because there was quite a lot of pressure to get his name out. MPs, members of parliament were pressuring Suella Braverman to release the name, the Home Secretary to release the name. His own lawyers actually asked that the anonymity order be lifted, which it was, and that's how we're now able to sort of widely broadcast it, and that's how the name sort of came to be reported in UK press as well.
All right, so a wrinkle that maybe is not so much fun to talk about is that, well, I understand there was another outlet that seemingly saw RFA investigative story and reported it as their own, and then you had a reaction on X, formerly known as Twitter. Can you talk a little bit about that? You don't have to go into too much detail if you don't want to, but I just found it very interesting that, professional news organizations would do something like that.
Yes, I was a little bit upset. But basically, but no, I mean, look, it's not, this is something that sometimes happens in the news business, which we don't like, and it just upsets everybody. But for me, it's not just a petty squabble, right? Because I think RFA, the reason why we were able to uncover one particular detail, which is Yang Tengbo's relationship or, apparent relationship to the former conservative Prime Minister David Cameron, was because we had found a Chinese state broadcast interview about him. And he was discussing the issue. And in that interview, it shows shots of Yang Tengbo's desk where there were these pictures of him with David Cameron and Theresa May. An outlet in the UK, which was not allowed to report his name, did report the fact that he had these two pictures, which they claimed was their exclusive, but which came out 2 days after the story that we had broken. To me, it's not a petty squabble, right? Because the reason why we were able to uncover that is because members of my team, myself included, we speak Chinese. We have the skills to uncover these kinds of things. And it's very important when a media professional uncovers a story that you acknowledge that they did the work and that they took the risk and that they did that. Now, I understand there was a gag, but that doesn't prevent you from being honest. Is my take on it. But they did later sort of update the story to say that we had broken this.
Oh, well, that's good.
After I was very very hacked off with them and sent several emails. But that's yes, that was just like a less pleasant thing that happened. Let's hope it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, but I did want to say, reading your tweets with colorful language, where that was
they weren't that colorful. They were quite professional.
It's kind of fun. Let me just say that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So the court ruling mentions two groups that Yang Tengbo was associated with: the 48 Group Club and the United Front Works Department. So let's start with the 48 Group Club. Could you explain who they are and what they do?
Yeah, so they're what appear to be a professional sort of business association. It's been around for quite a while. Their founder, I believe his last name is Perry, had close ties to China, and apparently, according to an obituary, was actually made an honorary member of the Red Guard by Mao Zedong, which I find quite fascinating. But it's quite interesting because they've sort of landed in hot water before with, there was a book that came out several years ago called Hidden Hand, accusing them of acting on behalf of Chinese interests in a surreptitious way. The 48 Club have always said, no, we're just, a group of people who are interested in Sino-Anglo relations. There's no seediness here. There are groups that do this all over the world, right? The American Chamber of Commerce or any like U.S., China, or whatever country to whatever country exchange. So it's a question, right, about what exactly it is that they do, and is it naughty or not? Right, in a word,
appropriate,
right? But they did say that given the news about Mr. Yang, they had rescinded his honorary membership. They did tell us that after we had approached them for comment.
All right, so the United Front Works Department has been covered in other RFA stories recently, including one about a Taiwanese rapper who said he was paid by operatives to spread propaganda through his music. So this is an arm of the CCP, and that seeks to promote political, economic, and social agenda abroad. Exactly what does that mean, and what kinds of activities does that translate to?
Yeah, so the United Front part of it, I think, is actually the really interesting bit. United Front, as Eugene, you mentioned, is a part of the Chinese government. It's actually described as one of the magic weapons of the Chinese government to spread its ideology, its economic agenda, it's CCP. We can call it propaganda, but like just CCP-ness, I guess, around the world, right? Okay. So let's call it that. And a really big part of this is cultural spreading Chinese, not really Chinese, spreading party culture, right? And that can be anything from, hey, we're going to publish a Chinese language newspaper in France that, echoes the talking points of the party, to the example that you gave. We're going to get, I guess, in this day and age, influencers to talk about how China is, how the party is great. And it's not how China is great, it's how the party is great. And I think the difficulty is, it's not like, you're a private business person or a private person living abroad and you happen to agree with something from your home country. It's that you are given a very specific sort of set of objectives and talking points and people to contact even when you are linked to the United Front. So one of the things that we had uncovered that I mentioned was that Yang Tengbo had been given this award recently in 2019 by a group that is a United Front, very heavily a United Front linked group. And what they do is, they'll give these awards. The award is called the Most Achieved Chinese Award, which yes, which is very, it's very Chinese if you speak Mandarin. And then the awardees will be people who are United Front members, and they'll take these fabulous pictures with important people. So one of the things that we had uncovered was the person who gave Yang Tengbo this award was like the former had been a former chairwoman of the UK Atomic energy agency. She was quite high profile. And, so it's a way to show, the access and the influence and the whatever it is that you have abroad. So it is a bit like acting like an agent on behalf of the state in a softer, I shouldn't say softer, in a more surreptitious way, right? It's not a direct relationship, but there is clearly a relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Yang, for his part, states that he's done nothing wrong, and that was part of the reason why he, lifted the
anonymity order. I know, it's such a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah, and he's said that he's built a life as a private citizen and an entrepreneur in the UK. It's his second home, and he would never do anything to harm the country. And there is something to that, right? He may or may not have thought that what he was doing was wrong. It is the case that, back when he was making a lot of these business ties in 2012, 2013, 2014, the UK was very eager to open doors with China. Like everybody was rushing in, right? So, he said in his statement that he's been a victim of the changing political climate, which, I think there is some truth to that, right? It's much more complicated, I think, than just saying, he's a spy, which he's, what does that mean? And is it really him, or is it really a bit of fecklessness on the part of people like Prince Andrew,
right?
In trusting these kinds of relationships without really understanding what they mean.
I mean, I hear that, but when you are getting instructions from the CCP on how to talk to certain people, I mean, that kind of sounds like, I mean, you'd have to be kind of not smart to realize that they're trying to get you to do something on their behalf, right? I mean,
but I think that kind of misunderstands the relationship in China, right? Again, under the regime, if you're a business person, if you're a person who's trying to cultivate any kind of cross-cultural ties, which is a thing that, is a good thing, right? Generally, you're not there's no way that you're not gonna hear from the state, right? It's not a society and a regime in which you can just operate independently the way that we do. So I do think there is something to that.
It's very, very nuanced.
It's very nuanced. Yes, exactly.
Okay, and the United Kingdom government plans to introduce a foreign influence registration scheme next summer, which would then require people to if they're acting in league with a foreign power, they'd have to declare any political lobbying. Then that's what's developed out of this.
Yeah, I think there have been attempts to introduce that before. If that goes ahead, because of I think people have said look, this is another example of why we need this. So let's see what happens. But yeah, in the meantime, Yang, I believe, is back in China, and has made his statement, which I think is fair, and. We'll see. I hear Prince Andrew is not going to be showing up with the royal family for Christmas.
I was going to ask that.
So that's the most immediate upshot, I think.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you would like to add to this before we say goodbye?
I just want to say what we said in our stories and what other experts have said, which is that this is not an isolated case, and both the broadness and the number of people and what they're actually doing, and whether that is, legally problematic or not. Those are very nuanced issues, and into whom those legal liabilities fall is also a very nuanced issue. Right. And I think it's not just it's very easy to be like, this China bad, this guy's a spy or whatever. But really, the West needs to look at itself and understand, there is a certain amount of fecklessness on their part too, and that's why we need more. That's why we need more people who understand China to be reporting about it.
Right.
That's what I have to say.
Well said. So I'll say that with that, this draws this episode of RFA Insider to a close. For Amy and Bo Deng, I'm Eugene Huang. We'll see you next time.
Thanks
for having me again.
Like what you heard today? It would really mean a lot to us if you would like, subscribe, or follow this podcast. You can also share it on social media or even text messages. Feeling frisky? Give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or elsewhere. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you here for the next episode of RFA Insider. Sure? Yeah. All right.